The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Steve Rosenberg, Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia. Randy and Sherri Goss are here to take your phone calls. 478-742-0940.
Can you say that any slower?
Slower?
No, don't do it to him. Don't do it to him.
Anyways, on a
sad note.
A sad note, CT, who's been running the board for this show for years, I don't even know how many years.
Over 20.
He passed away this week. And it's just very sad. And so we have Neil here helping us out.
Thank you, Neil.
To do the show. Thanks for showing up.
And you have to laugh at all of our jokes.
Okay.
All right. So give us a call, 478-742-0940 if you want to participate in the show. And rest in peace, CT.
Yep.
All right. You going to take away?
Sure. Hey, everybody.
What's going on?
Yesterday, the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell played good cop in his speech following this week's meeting in the Open Market Committee, or FOMC. I've got a bad echo in here.
Yeah, I've got a buzz in my head, too.
Anyway, many of the board members stated their... Yeah, we're putting you to work already. Many of the board members stated their eagerness to pull back on the stimulus of low interest rates and the buyback program, which has enabled the economy to maintain a semblance of normalcy throughout the pandemic. However, Powell, being the chairman, they decided not to do that, and he seemed dovish by acknowledging the economic progress and supporting the pullback program in quantitative easing, while also arguing inflation will recede and eventually rate hikes are wholly the inflation is going to recede back to pre-pandemic levels. And he went on to state that the rate hikes are wholly separate from the taper programs that they're looking at. Now, if you were watching the markets yesterday after Powell's speech, you might ask, or you might know how they responded, and that was nicely. The S&P closed up over 4,500, and the Dow closed at 35,455, and the NASDAQ closed at over 15,000. The S&P pushed above the former record highs with broad strength, which includes the economically geared up groups, but it's fully embracing the NASDAQ's giants too. Treasury yields are playing along with Powell's efforts to de-link taper intentions from the rate hike, with the short-term yields, and that's the 2 to 5 year treasuries, dropping more than longer maturities. Well, what about what's not to like, right? Well, I still got a bad hum in here. It's almost. I wish everybody could hear it. That way you have to call in and gripe at him today. Well, what's not to like about new highs in the stock market, Sherri? Not much, except for the fact that big indexes are pushing the upper resistance band again with ever increasing prices of many of the stocks. Indexes are getting overbought, and it shows that the underlying buyer's urgency, but it often precedes a pause in the stock market. And we'll talk more about that in the history lesson we're going to give you. And now we're entering September, which is historically not a great month for the markets, but neither was August. And a but there too. The S&P is up 2.6 with only one trading day to go in this month. Well, you might ask, we talk about this often, what about the VIX? The VIX closed near all-time lows.
Which is a volatility index.
Yes, and it closed near all-time lows at 16.39. And, basically what Powell's speech indicated was there's nothing new to fear. Now, what we're waiting on now is the August jobs report, and we'll see that's probably next week. And if this report shows more than 850,000 non-farm payroll gains, then the Fed may take the first steps in pulling back on the easy money.
And I have to say, this is one of my biggest things that our clients are asking us about, because they're extremely concerned about how much money the government is creating and putting into the system. We have never done this ever in the history of this country. We have never created this much money out of thin air and just thrown it around like candy.
Which is why the Fed is trying to pull back on this in just very tiny increments, because if they just say, okay, free money's over, we're all in big trouble.
Right.
So you want to talk about the history lesson, Sherri?
Yeah. So people worry about the dollar, and this whole concept is my biggest thing that people are asking me about. So the U.S. dollar declines when the dollar's value is lower compared to other currencies, which is what is happening. This is what is happening because we are not printing. I keep saying that's not right. We're creating money out of thin air. And how this works is the federal government buys treasuries from itself. And so that just generates money that they can use and put into the economy. We did this back in 2008 and 2009, but the difference is back then we were bailing out banks.
Yep.
Banks were failing at a massive rate. And so because of that, they created money out of thin air. They bailed out the banks, but the banks were expected to pay the money back. This time around, with all the stimulus spending, there is nobody expected to pay anything back anywhere. I mean, they're expecting and saying they're going to just create higher taxes and that's how they're going to pay this money back. But there's not enough money to tax to do it. And so the question is, what's the dollar going to be worth? So the U.S. dollar declines when the dollar's value is lower compared to other currencies in the foreign exchange market. A declining dollar can also mean a fall in the value of U.S. treasuries. This drives up treasury yields and interest rates. Treasury note yields are the main driver of mortgage rates. It can mean that foreign central banks and sovereign wealth funds are holding fewer dollars too. This lowers the demand for dollars. So a weaker dollar buys less in foreign goods. This increases the price of imports, contributing to inflation. As the dollar weakens, investors in the benchmark 10-year Treasury and other bonds sell their dollar-denominated holdings. Contracts for oil and other commodities are usually denominated in dollars. As a result, historically, there's been an inverse relationship between the value of the dollar and commodity prices. Essentially, as the value of the dollar falls, the dollar-denominated prices of these commodities must rise to reflect their unchanged intrinsic value. I know this sounds a little boring, but it's important. On the plus side, a weakening dollar helps U.S. exporters, and this is something that we've done in the past. This is something that we did back in 2008 and 2009.
Yes.
You weaken the dollar, our goods are cheaper to foreigners. It boosts our U.S. economic growth, which attracts foreign investors to U.S. stocks. And so a weaker dollar means the deficit will not cost the government as much to pay back. That's another thing. So 7 steps that protect you from a declining dollar. There's only a couple things in here I'm going to mention. Increase your earning potential through education and training. If you earn more each year, you can outpace a dollar decline. Invest part of your portfolio in the stock market. Even though it's risky, the risk-adjusted returns often outpace inflation. Make sure you have a well-diversified portfolio, which is what we do. We're a portfolio management company. We are a portfolio... We're a fee-based financial planner. Thank you.
Can you hear me at all?
I can't hardly hear you, and I can hardly hear myself.
I can barely hear you either, so we missed CT already.
We're struggling here.
But we're fee-based financial planners.
If you can hear us, call and let us know. 478-742-0940.
But anyway, we're fee-based financial planners primarily.
And we do have our own portfolio manager, and we do stay diversified and all of that stuff. Anyways, China is the second largest foreign investor in dollars. As of June 2020, it held $1.07 trillion in U.S. treasuries. Japan is the largest investor with $1.26 trillion in holdings. It buys treasuries to keep the value of the yen low so it can export more cheaply. And so this is just what this is. It's what always happens. So many say the dollar won't collapse for 4 reasons. First, it's backed by the U.S. government. That makes it a premier global currency. Second, it's the universal medium of exchange. That's thanks to a sophisticated financial markets. The third reason is that most international contracts are priced in dollars. And the fourth reason is probably the most important. The United States is the world's best customer. It's the largest export market for many countries, and most of those countries have either adopted the dollar as their own currency. Others peg their currency to the dollar. We are the safe haven.
The safe haven.
We're supposed to be the smart people in the room, and we don't always look like it, which is painful because we can be. We could be the number one superpower in every direction if our government would just grow a brain.
And, other countries, like China, they want to depeg. They want to knock the United States currency off as the premier currency in the world. That's what they've been working on for years, and they would be able to do that if they dumped all their treasuries back in. But we know they're not going to do that because they need us.
Yeah,
That's one of the big concerns I always hear people say. Well, if they dump those securities, well, it kind of hurts them in a big way too. They rely on our goods. They rely on our power to help them.
Well, we buy a bunch of their stuff.
That's right.
We buy tons of their stuff. They need us. If we just dumped off on them and quit buying anything from them, they would be in a major crack.
There we go. Thank you, Neil. Much better.
All right. So history suggests a stock market crash is likely. So let's talk about this. So why do we do what we do and what our clients are worried about? So we actively manage our portfolio with an eye toward risk management, which is a big deal. What's wrong?
Is the mic good for you now? Can you hear yourself talk?
I can hear myself, yep.
Yep, perfect. Sorry. So, everybody, this has just been a little bit unnerving up here this morning because when it doesn't work, we don't know how we're coming across on the other end. So we've been juggling feathers up here.
That's okay. It's all right. So that's why we do what we do, and we meet with our clients pretty frequently. And so a lot of the clients that I've been meeting with are worried about a stock market crash. And so here are 5 data points that talk about this from one of the newsletters we subscribe to. If history has anything to say about the stock market in the near term, trouble might be brewing. And here are the 5 data points that a crash could be on the horizon. I'm not telling you to stop out of the market right now. We're not stopping out of the market right now. But this is something that we keep on the radar constantly, and we're constantly watching.
But you're right. Even last week we talked about a friend of mine who was concerned that the market was going to crash in September. You know, that's that was somebody from his church that was telling him this. So, I mean, we're hearing it not only from people that are our friends, but clients as well.
So number 1, crashes and corrections happen frequently. According to data provided by market analytics firm Yardeni Research, the benchmark index has undergone 38 declines of at least 10% since the beginning of 1950. This works out to a crash or correction on average every 1.87 years. For some context, we're more than 1.4 years removed from the bear market bottom of the virus, which is an outlier. I mean, that was not a pullback based on our economics.
That's right.
It was pullback based on a virus. It was a total outlier event. So you can't, a black swan, thank you, that you can't really even take that into consideration. It's important to understand that the vast majority of crashes and corrections don't last very long, even if they do occur pretty frequently. The average length of the aforementioned 38 declines since 1950 is 188 calendar days. So you're talking about something like 2008 and 2009. Which was really rough, but we created that ourselves by easy money policies and easy mortgages. I mean, we created it.
That's right.
Gosh, it's frustrating. So number 2, bouncing back from a bear market bottom is never smooth. The next data point of concern examines how the S&P 500 responds after it finds a bear market bottom. The index took less than 17 months to double in value from March 2020 lows. 3, the S&P 500's valuation spells trouble. One of the bigger telltale warnings for the stock market has been the S&P 500 Shiller price-to-earnings ratio. This is a measure that examines the inflation-adjusted earnings over the previous 10 years. For some context, the S&P 500 Shiller price-to-earnings rating closed last week at 38.58, which is nearly a 2-decade high. It's also well over double the average dating back 151 years, but it's not how far above its historic average that's a concern. Rather, it's how the S&P has responded each of the previous times it's crossed and sustained a ratio of 30. In each of the previous 4 instances that the S&P shot above and sustained 30, the index lost anywhere from 20 to 89%.
And to understand that the Shiller index, the number that you see, if you were to pull that up on the Google Finance, that number is only looking back the 10 previous years. Okay, so the price, which closed yesterday at 39.17, I looked at it this morning, that's not taking into account the Great Depression and some of these other really old data points.
Number 4 is inflation. That's another concern. We already talked about that. And number 5 is investors are borrowing. Okay, this is a big deal. The final data point that should be a cause for concern is margin debt. Margin describes the amount of money investors are borrowing and paying interest on to buy or bet against securities, which is at an all-time high. While not a perfect correlation, rising margin debt has often spelled bad news for the stock market. Since hitting its bear market low in March of 2020, margin debt has practically doubled from a bit over $400 billion to $844 billion. according to data from the Finance Industry Regulation Authority, some of our favorite people at FINRA.
Yeah. And, with the margin debt, Sherri, the thing that happens is when this gets out of whack and the borrowing gets to be too high, they can have margin calls.
Yes.
And that's when things really start to unspiral. So basically what it means is if you have a loan, any loan, and the bank calls you up and says you need to pay, half of your mortgage or half of your car payment off right now, or they call the loan in its entirety, that is what hurts.
Yeah. So that's what could happen. The past 2 times margin debt jumped by at least 60% in a given year came immediately before the dot-com recession and the Great Recession. Although margin debt actually declined in July, it was up as much as 70% year-to-date just a few months prior. So it's not a guarantee. None of these things are guaranteeing something bad's coming. I'm not trying to scare you, but you need to be aware that things are lining up in a negative way. And if we keep spending money like drunken sailors, it's not going to get any better.
Well, another point I'd like to make too, Sherri, is that, when you're in the accumulation phase of your investment programs in your life, this is okay because you have time to recover from this. And
plus, you're buying when the market pulls back. You're buying cheaper.
That's right, and so you can build some great wealth on if you're continuing to buy while the market's down, and when it goes back up, you bought in for a cheaper price. I think we all understand that. But it's the people that really get hurt when the market takes a real bad turn are the people who are right at retirement and they're retiring from their jobs and they're not going to have that continued income coming in, and they're supposed to be living off of their savings, their investments, or the people who are already living on fixed incomes, and then the market drops. So if you're in that latter category, you really want to be paying attention to the market.
Call your financial advisor, make an appointment, and ask that person, what will you do when the market pulls back to protect me?
And if you don't have a financial advisor that calls you back, call us. 478-922-8100.
But yeah, it's really important that you're dialed into this because it could be, the Biden's promise is that he's going to keep everything fine, interest rates low, everything's going to be fine for his entire term. Mm-hmm. But they're going to have to stop this quantitative easing at some point. You can only borrow so much money from yourself and throw it around. And I don't. Well,
that they're not in addition to all the stimulus checks and everything. You got the shovel-ready projects and the fourth
writing off student loan debt.
$20 trillion worth of new expenditures from the Congress. So anyway, with all that, at some point they're going to have to stop it. So until then, though, I guess we'll just enjoy the profits while we can get them.
Yep.
All right, we have a telephone call, Sherri.
Awesome. Good morning. You're on with Sherri and Randy.
Good morning. Did we lose her? Did we lose the person? Hi, you're on the air with Randy and Sherri. Testing.
Maybe they're not.
Okay. I tell you what.
If you were on the
if you
were on the air holding, we apologize for the delay. So give us a call back.
So you can also text Randy. I'm going to give out your cell phone number, 478-954-2498. You can text Randy if you have a question. 478-954-2498. So I had a client this week that was interesting. This is about the Social Security question. Yep. And this was a really, really good question. So he comes to see me, and he's disabled. His wife is disabled. Very difficult situation, living on disability. Well, his disability just ended because he hit full retirement age for Social Security. So his disability is going to flip over and become... You've got a phone call? Is that... What? I don't know what's going on. Anyways, so he says, here's the deal. I'm full retirement age. My wife is not. I'm thinking about suspending my Social Security and then waiting and refiling at 70 where my benefit is greater so that she could make more money off of her benefit that is half of mine. And that is a really good idea, but it does not work like that. So let me explain this. So he's already at full retirement age. She's not. So she's going to have to wait 4 more years until she hits her full retirement age. And so how this works is if he suspends his benefit and waits to 70, that has no effect on how much she receives. She will only get half of his benefit at his full retirement age rate. So, anyways, so you can't suspend if you want your spouse to get more money. You can't. The only way this would work is if you waited until later to apply, and then maybe your death benefit would be higher. But anyways, we've got a phone call. Good morning. You're on with Randy and Sherri.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Barry.
Hey, Barry.
Hey,
Good
Barry.
morning. How are you today?
Great. Always good to start my day with your program.
Oh, we like that.
Yay, thanks for listening.
Well, I have a particular thing that I heard you mention a show or two ago.
Uh-oh.
And that was overbilling for medical costs.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, now I have a situation where I had to have retina surgery. It had to be done within a small framework of time. And so the doctor ended up calling somebody out of my network for anesthesia services.
This is what I keep hearing.
And so when I had my surgery, it was a 2-hour surgery, and it went fine, by the way. But anyway, I was billed $3,500.
Wow.
Right?
And it's just amazing. I mean, I've been paying some on that. Surgery was in May of last year. I didn't get billed actually until about August or September of last year. And since then, every month I've made some payment on it. I think $3,500 is a little bit ridiculous for, any kind of surgery for 2 hours.
Right. And if they were out of network as of January 1, they are not supposed to be billing you for that. But the problem I'm thinking with your case is that you got billed before the law went into effect.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. But I would call your insurance, whoever your insurance policy is with. Are you on Medicare?
I have Medicare, but I also have federal benefit Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Wow, I'm surprised you're getting billed that much when you have two coverages.
And I appealed it, and, it's been, that was in June of last year. I haven't heard anything from the insurance company on that appeal.
But you said you already paid a portion of it, right?
That's right. I paid approximately $400, Sherri.
Okay. Yeah, I would call them up and find out what's going on, because that would just be unnerving having that hanging out there, not knowing what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think you need to be the squeaky wheel.
Yeah, but I don't know how this affects a bill that you got last year before the law was passed. The whole thing is rotten. I mean, this business of you don't even know who's doing what to you, and then you get a bill later with no understanding. And how the law works now is you're supposed to have to consent in writing that you understand that person is out of network. And what I'm thinking, based on people I'm talking to, is they hand you a consent form and you think it's a consent to have the procedure. So you just sign it. They hand you all this stuff to sign.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you just sign it.
And no one reads it.
Yeah, I don't read it because it's like, seriously, it's a mammogram. I'm consenting to the fact that I'm going to be in radiation or whatever. I just sign the thing, go in there, do the thing. But I think that's where we're asleep at the wheel, and everybody's got to pay more attention to what they're actually signing and question things, because that's what I think is happening now.
Especially if you've got somebody to go with you to any hospital, any doctor's appointment, especially the big ones, you need that, because they'll put stuff in front of you that you just don't understand, maybe because you're not in your right mind because of how sick you are.
You're under anesthesia.
Or anesthesia. Yeah.
Here, let me give you some drugs and give you a bunch of paperwork to sign.
But anyway,
I believe thinking back that I was already in the twilight zone,
oh my gosh.
All those papers,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. If Sherri hadn't been with me on several occasions, I don't know what I would have signed.
And then they come in after the procedure. So Randy said 4 trips to the heart center over at Navicent, and he comes out of the heart cath thing totally drugged out. He doesn't even know what planet he's on. And then they come in and prescribe more medication and I'm not in the room. And so then later it's like, oh, they put you on 2 more drugs and I have no idea what they were and you don't know why. And it's a disaster.
Yeah. One day she came in and there's papers laying on my chest. And she goes, what's all this? I said, I don't know. They were documents the doctor had come in and dropped off and said it was crazy.
Just laid them on him while he was passed out.
I'm sure I talked to him. I'm sure I did.
Oh, gosh. But, yeah, I would call just for peace of mind. That would be really unnerving, thinking things hanging over your head.
Yep.
I will, and I'll have all my EOBs and receipts from the anesthesia people in front of me, in case they want to know something about a particular date or whatever I paid and everything. And
yeah, and here's what's weird to me. We're on TRICARE because Randy's retired military. I don't get receipts. I don't get any paperwork.
Wow.
I don't ever get a bill, and even when I log into TRICARE online, I can't even see what anybody billed or what anybody did.
But Barry, I'll tell you, I think you're doing the right thing by continuing to make those payments, okay?
Yeah.
Because if you don't...
Wait, no, because they've suspended it. He needs to check on it and see if they've waived it.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Okay. I was just thinking about, I missed that
part.
Sorry,
you were asleep.
I will follow your advice and call them.
Good. Let us know how it goes, man.
I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And have a great weekend.
You do as well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So here's another question that I had this week. And so I had a client. Steve is retiring, and so I'm meeting with him and all of his clients. And I met a woman this week whose husband had a Purple Heart, Vietnam, Agent Orange disability, 100%. And so I asked her, so I said, are you getting 100% of the disability check that he was receiving before he passed? And she says, no, I get a portion of it. And I've had this before, and I had to go back and look it up because I thought that if your spouse was medically disabled because of the military service and what they were exposed to, military disability 100% rating, I thought when that person's passed, the spouse got that benefit and continued to get that money. And I was wrong. She gets a portion of it. So you may be eligible for VA benefits or compensation for surviving spouses if you meet the requirements listed below. And you have to be married before a certain time for a certain period. There's all this stuff. If anybody wants this, just shoot me an email, Sherri, SHERRI, at rfmoney.com, and I'll forward this to you. But here's the one that really kicked me in the head. I'm reading through all of this, and it says, totally disabling means the veteran's injuries made it impossible for them to work.
Yep.
I have never seen that before. I've seen the thing about veterans' eligibility was due to a totally disability rating. They must have had this rating for at least 10 years or blah, 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 all these things. I'll shoot you this thing if you need this. But I'm concerned that spouses may not get this if they don't understand they should get it.
But let me go back. The program specifically that you're talking about is the VA Dependency and Indemnity Compensation, or VA-DIC. It is for surviving spouse, a child, a parent of a service member who died in the line of duty, or the survivor of a veteran who died from a service-related injury. This document is more complicated than we're going to take the time to go over.
Right.
But the first place I would tell you to do is if you want the article, just email us and we'll get it to you. But the other place you need to call is the Vector Center.
Yeah.
Down in Warner Robins. But the CBOC, that's the community-based outpatient whatever's center. They have people there that are advocates just like the Vector Center, so you can call them as well. And there's one right over here on Mercer University Drive.
Tell me the procedure. So we got in this thing where Randy had all these different doctors, and everybody's prescribing drugs, and I'm sitting there going, what the heck? Does anybody even know what anybody else is giving you? And you're taking all this stuff at the same time because he has a bunch of health conditions. So he went ahead and enrolled with the VA. Explain that process.
It's very simple.
People have a bad...
They used to have a very bad opinion of the VA.
Well, people still do, and so they don't go there because they think it's going to be horrible.
Well, that's what I was getting to, is that they've changed a lot of things and for the positive. When I first got out of the military, I'd been to the VA down in Dublin, and I was just horrified down there. But it's not like that now. But all you have to do is call the 1-800 number for VA, and they will register you over the telephone. They may
but they have to
a
do
document.
that first, right?
Yeah, they do that first. If you showed up down there, they would do it while you're on site. But as long as you got your military ID card, they're pretty much going to take care of you. Here's the deal. It's like I had most of my prescriptions coming through Express Scripts, and I said now I want to go through the VA. All you got to do is give them a list of your medications, and they'll put it into their system, and you just go into Express Scripts online and cancel your prescriptions. It's that simple. But I've been very impressed with the service I've received
Big time.
since I've started going there. I went to the dermatologist yesterday, and because, you get sunspots in your head, and since I have a follically challenged forehead, I get a little more sunburnt up there than some people, like you sitting over here with a full head of hair. But anyway, the meeting was with a nurse and the doctors in Columbia, South Carolina, and they did everything by camera. Everything went through digitally and Skype, right? And but I've gone to the VA several times down in Dublin, and every time, from optometrist to audiology, to just
your
X-rays, elbows, everything has been top notch. So if you're a veteran, I encourage you just to give them a shot.
You really, really should look into it. And the reason that I wanted him to go is because, like I said, everybody was doing procedures and prescribing drugs, and nobody was coordinating any of that. And so the first meeting, I went along when we met with the doctor in Macon, young, sharp guy, spent an hour and a half with us, and Randy told him everything that was going on, and he gave him his list of drugs he was taking. And the guy stood there and looked at it and said, I can tell you right now there's 3 drugs on this list you can't take at the same time. And so they've been really working hard to get that managed better. And the care that he's received has been so phenomenal. I wish the rest of the medical community could follow in suit to them, because you went down there for your elbow and literally you had a doctor visit.
I walked in the door. I barely
This
got
is in
sat
Dublin.
down. It's Dublin. I walked in the door, sat down. 2 minutes later, a lady walks out, a nurse walks out and says, Mr. Goss. So I follow him back, told him what was going on. They put a wheelchair in front of me, sent me to X-rays, came out X-rays. The doctor comes over and says, I see what's going on. And then a lady gave me 2 shots. And I was literally, and then I went down and got a prescription. And
you're in and out of there within
45 minutes.
45 minutes from start to finish being treated.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff we're experiencing.
Most of the time you go to the doctor and you get 45 minutes just to find out you've got to go somewhere else.
Right.
To finish the procedures.
So if you're a veteran, I have and the other thing, if you're a veteran, you need to understand service-connected presumptive disabilities.
That's right.
I met with somebody this week who, one of Steve's clients, who has hearing loss and his knees are shot. And I asked him if he'd been to the VA because he believes it was from his time he retired from the military. And he believes it was service-connected, but he'd been to the VA years ago and they just kind of blew him off. I said, you need to go back. You need to go back and talk to them because it's a whole different animal now, and they're paying attention to people, and the care that we've received is huge. And you need to have them do your hearing test. He says his doctor will do his hearing test and say it's not bad enough for hearing aids. I have another person that has had hearing aids and special orthotic shoes, and now they are looking at his entire body, and they did a body scan, they did a sleep study. They've done all these things for him, and before they didn't do anything. So something has shifted huge with the VA. So if you're a veteran, the first thing is you need to go online, and if you can't find it, just email me, Sherri, Sherri, at rfmoney.com, and I will send you the most recent presumptive disability list, because there are disabilities from Korean War, Vietnam, and then Afghanistan. There's different lists of different things, and one of the big things in the very first paragraph of this thing is if you have ALS and you served in the military, they're talking about that being 100% presumptive disability, period.
We have a exponential compared to an exponential amount of people that
with
diagnosed with ALS compared to the outside world.
Yeah. So you need to understand how this stuff works and the benefits that you could have that could possibly really help you. And so if you have a family member, and the most recent thing, and I've talked about this before, you probably get sick of this, but I just feel like I'm pounding on it, the Afghanistan burn pits, and people that have been exposed to those burn pits need to file a claim.
On the burn
if you're
pit
having
registry.
any asthma, sinusitis, lung problems, you've got to get on the burn pit registry, and you've got to file a claim.
That's right.
All right, enough of that.
Let's talk a little cyber. I know y'all hear me when I'm on the radio show. I kind of, it's one of my favorite topics, but I want to bring this back up to you because, because of the pandemic, you've got to, especially if you own a small business, I want you to pay attention to this. Oh, hang on, we got a call.
Good morning. You're on the phone with Randy and Sherri. Hello.
Hi there. How are you guys this morning?
We are
great.
wonderful.
We
How are
recognize
you?
his voice.
Oh, honey, I am just a bubbly, bright little light of sunshine this morning.
So we met this young lady last night. We were out to dinner reading our radio show stuff, and she's just tell everybody about you.
Sherri stopped by her table on the way in because what she had on her plate looked very interesting.
Yeah,
and,
so I said,
we struck up a friendship.
Yeah, so tell us all about you. Tell us your exciting story.
Yes. So my name is Tracy Kennedy, and I am the founder of California Country Organics Body Care, which is an organic, sustainable line of everyday products that we all use, infant to elderly safe, seizure safe, and just in a really fun and whimsical way. And I think that's because of the fact that, for the most part, a lot of us have lost our fun and whimsy,
right?
And just like that light that, most children bring.
What are you talking about?
I know, right?
Whimsy. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Well, how long have you been, you probably came right out of high school wanting to do something like this, right?
Oh, funny.
How did you get
here? I wish
here?
that was the case. I would have been successful far longer. What happened was, actually, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling, and my original background is working in fine dining. And, being a stay-at-home mom, there's really not much that you can do with that background other than, cook for your family and have, some dinner parties for your friends every once in a while.
Right.
And my son developed eczema when he was about 10 months old. And I've always had eczema woes my entire life. But when he developed it, I was like, oh, my God, Tiger Mom, don't do this to my baby, please, no. And so I applied the same philosophy that I had towards high-quality food and how it healed us from the inside. And I said, I bet I can make a recipe to heal this little brother from the outside.
Well, so you started in your garage, basically,
In my kitchen, yeah.
And,
in my kitchen.
And so where are you now in your business?
So 4.5 years later, I have won 2 pitch competitions. One, I've won second place, which was through the largest pitch competition for black women in the nation, which is Black Girl Ventures. And
that's important to know that people know this even exists.
Right.
I've never even heard of this. How did you know about it?
It was a stroke of luck. People knew me throughout Birmingham, where I currently reside. And I got an email, and then the email led to several series of messages in my Facebook Messenger and my Instagram saying, hey, we're trying to get in contact with you because someone requested you to be part of this competition.
Now, is this like a Shark Tank?
It's a crowd-funded pitch competition. They do have major investors there. They work with Nike and large people. They work with PayPal. They just did a Buy Black summit with Facebook. So they are working with some heavy hitters.
Nice.
But for a lot of small businesses like myself, had I not gotten those emails saying, "Girl, we want you," where would I be?
That's right.
And just winning second place, gave me that confidence that, oh my God, I'm not an imposter. I can really do this.
And we all think like that when we're trying to build stuff or make changes in our lives. There's a lot of naysayers that will come out of the woodwork.
Oh my gosh, yes. And your family is usually the worst. I remember
don't even get me started, honey.
Yeah. I got into the insurance business, and I learned really quick to not tell anybody I was quitting my job and going into the insurance business because everybody told me I was going to fail. It's like, seriously?
Yep.
That's your advice, is I'm going to fail? It's crazy how people do.
So you've won these competitions. You
won
one or
two?
I've won 2. The second one I actually just won last weekend.
That's awesome.
That was a local pitch competition in order to help give highlight to small black businesses in Birmingham, because Birmingham is the 4th largest city for black people.
So what's the next step for your business?
Oh my God! So the next step is Facebook is teaming up with the Atlantic to create a virtual main street of storefronts, and my company is going to be one of those storefronts.
Wow!
So you're coming in on the ground floor of everything.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And so it's one of those like dreams come true. To be in front of 30 million readers and
right.
That's amazing.
But from a financial perspective, to not have to pay for the advertising.
Right. Yeah. So tell me, I got to go back and ask a question. So your son's eczema, did you create a product that helped with that?
I did. I created a product called Skin Soldier Healing Cream. And the reason why I decided to call it a healing cream as opposed to being very specific about eczema is because, in these 4.5 years of being in business, everybody had something different that they used it for cuts, burns, bruises, bug bites, general skin irritations, diaper rash. I love using it as my everyday face moisturizer because it contains zinc oxide, so it gives that great SPF protection without clogging my pores. And
what was the name of this again?
It's called Skin Soldier Healing Cream.
Skin Soldier Healing Cream. Okay.
Yes. Shameless plug for little old pint-sized me. www.calibamaorganics.com.
Say that again slowly.
Yeah. Say that again really slow and spell it out for us.
Definitely. www.CALIBAMAORGANICS.com.
Calicama Organics.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and my company is it's California Country Organics, and
okay.
I love the play with Calibama because it combines my California roots with this new kind of semi-rural country living.
Oh, Calibama. I got you. Now I got you.
We're slow. Sorry. So I guess now being on the ground floor of this new endeavor and opening your own business,
which is all online,
which
means you save tons of money.
You're going to probably end up being a great mentor to many other people. And that's part of what we were talking to you about last night is that so many people do not understand the hard work that it takes to
create
do what
something.
You've done, to create a product, or even to start their own investments and see that through all the way through their retirement. So do you have any
tips
words of wisdom?
I do. You know what? I actually I made a couple of videos on my Instagram, which is Calibama CCO. And, one of them in particular talks about literally, as you're saying, the hard work that goes into it. And I'm out here in Georgia right now for a 3-day market, Vintage Market Days, which is being held at the Georgia Fairgrounds. It's today from 10 till 5 and tomorrow from 10 till 4.
So people can meet you.
Yep.
Yes, you can meet me. I will be in the canary yellow petticoat with the really cute earrings.
By the way, people,
me, I promise.
She's a really fun person. We had so much fun talking to her last night in the restaurant. It was like we were all soulmates. It's like we're all of the same. We're cut out of the same cloth.
Yep.
And it was just so cool. Just to have this random conversation. That's what I love about going out downtown is I constantly meet just great people that have great things going on, and it's just a blast. So, say again where you're going to be today.
I will be at the Georgia Fairgrounds for Vintage Market Days from 10 to 5, and tomorrow from 10 till 4. But, being at these shows and doing this for 4 years, and traveling all across the country, it is literally exhausting, especially for me because I'm a single mom of 2 children. So, sometimes I have to take my children with me.
Oh, wow.
And, exactly, and so it's making sure that, I have all of my product, making sure that everything is loaded into my car, and then driving, sometimes the longest I've driven is about 15 hours.
Wow. That's horrible.
That speaks to your dedication too,
right?
Yeah, so you take this long drive only to have to get there and unload and set up everything that you just put into the car, you know, and then you have to make sure that you are being your best self.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you're not selling a product. You're selling yourself.
Amen.
You want people to believe in you and your integrity and your authenticity. Because if people can't see the core of who you are and they can't see the light that you bring to the table, they're not going to buy anything from you because they don't care, because you're not engaging with them. You're not connecting with them.
Yep.
I see a book in your future.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Just,
you got some really good advice for people that want to start a business. You've got some really good insights.
that and just carry your energy right into the text.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have 4 things that I always tell people. I say, know your numbers, know your product, know your future, and know yourself.
I like that. Yep.
Everything
and be
else
real.
will come into play.
And be real.
That's right.
You can't fake this. You cannot fake this. People will smell it a mile away, and they will not want anything to do with you. You're so real, and you're so open and authentic. You're just you. And it's like pours out like a little ray of sunshine. So if
thank you.
Yeah, so if people don't have anything to do today, why don't you go to the Georgia Fairgrounds and walk around and look at all this cool stuff people are doing? Sounds like fun to me.
Yep.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I mean, definitely come by my booth, you know. But there are several other vendors that I've been doing these markets with for years, and they just have amazing talent. And you know, but it's just, you know, how do they get to shine?
Right.
You know, and sometimes it's hard for people to know themselves, and in order for allow people to see the best of them, you know?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons why I say know yourself. I say know your numbers, because you need to know your cost. You need to know how you're going to make a profit.
Right.
Because if you don't know your cost, if you don't know what's going to sell and how it's going to sell, baby, you might as well pack it up and go on home and get a regular basic job.
That's right.
Because, you know, everything else is going to be a wash. You know your product.
We've met people that have done that.
Yeah, you know, you shouldn't have to rely on a slide deck. You shouldn't have to rely on picking up a label, a jar, and looking at it and go, oh yeah, I remember what's in there right now. That product is an extension of you.
That's right.
You know you, and if you know you, then you need to know that product like the back of your hand.
Excellent.
Good advice.
Yeah, and know your future. As far as investors goes, where are you going? What does your future look like? Is it bright? You know, is it just mundane where you're just going to kind of slowly coast through and hope that you'll get that next paycheck? That's what people really want to see. Those 4 things.
So
knowing your numbers, knowing your product, knowing your future, and knowing yourself.
So tell me this. What influence did your parents have on you as a child that turned you into who you are?
0.
Really? So this
0.
just came out of God.
Very much so.
Okay.
You know, to be very candid, you know, I grew up in LA, you know, in the 80s during the crack epidemic, you know.
Yeah.
And I had a father that was on drugs, and I had a mother that was an alcoholic that changed.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
you should have been a failure.
Yeah, you know, and I grew up with a grandmother who was amazing, but she was so busy chasing Jesus that, you know, she didn't necessarily pay attention to these issues that I was going through, you know, for my generation, because, you know, she was born, I'm not going to tell her age necessarily, but, you know, there's a significant age difference. And,
right.
You know, there's a significant mindset difference as well.
So the bottom line of this is, regardless of your past, regardless of your family, regardless of all the other crap that went on in your life, you can turn yourself into a success.
That's right.
Absolutely, 100%. Know yourself.
Wow.
Know that you are more than your circumstances. Know that you are more than what society tells you. Know that you can achieve absolutely, well, you know, I'm 5'3", so I'm never going to be a basketball player, you know? you have to be realistic in
That's
these
right.
things, but always know that there is a way out. There are options for you.
Okay, so need you to
grind.
give your website again, the name of your company, and where you're going to be today.
Definitely. So again, my name is Tracy Kennedy with California Country Organics Body Care, and my website is www.calibamaorganics.com. That's CalibamaOrganics.com. And I will be at the Georgia Fairgrounds in Perry, Georgia, from 10 till 5 today and 10 till 4 tomorrow.
Yay. Thank you so much for calling in. It was so fun meeting you last night.
Yeah,
good
definitely.
luck. We wish you the best.
I'm so happy you said you didn't want to try that tofu because, honey, it was tragic. So you saved yourself a pallet of disappointment, honey.
Well, I'm glad we didn't give the name of the restaurant that we went to.
We'll keep that on a hush.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Well, have a wonderful day and a good time meeting a bunch of fun people today.
You're on your way to financial freedom.
Yay.
Yes, most
definitely. Awesome.
All right, have a great day, guys.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Talk about a fun person.
Right, she was fun. It's great to see somebody that has had a vision and was able
and made it happen.
And made it happen. And that's just
takes a lot of hard work, though.
Does.
You got to be willing to put in the hard work and the hours on top of raising 2 kids. It's not easy, but if you want something bad enough, you can do it.
Yep.
Anyways.
All right, let's talk about cyber.
So boring.
It is boring. But compared to her, this is really boring. But,
right.
But, I'm not going to spend more than maybe 30, 40 seconds on this. But, because of COVID, especially business owners, they had a lot of people that were working from home. And with that, it's just fraught with opportunities for people to not do the right thing with their computer systems. Like letting their kid use their computer for homeschooling or drifting off and going to websites they don't need to go to on a company laptop or
clicking on an email
server.
that's a fake spam email, and
it's bad, and they've had a lot of bad things happen because of it. But with cyber, there's just no really good way to stop these guys because every time a mechanism is put in place, the cyber guys are smart. They get around that, and. So what I'm saying is just make sure that you know where your kids are on your computers or anybody else that's using your computer system. And if you are a small business owner, you need to make sure that you're diligent with your software partners. Make sure they're reputable. Make sure that they sign a non-disclosure agreement if they're the ones who get into your computer to do, say, repairs or something. And you can always go out to the FTC and other places and look at high-profile cases for cyber, and that will help you better understand how you should configure your systems with respect to malware and different pieces of software that keep the bad guys out. And there are people out there that are companies that can help you automate your compliance if you have to deal with compliance like we do. And one of the most important things is just train your staff. Make sure that they understand and what the hazards are for you as a business owner, and then ultimately for them as an employee. Because if small businesses get whacked, or hacked, not whacked, it's very possible.
You could lose all your data.
You could be put out of business that quick, yeah. And then ultimately they end up losing their job too. So you can always have it in your policies and procedures manual if you have one, or just write a letter that says you acknowledge that you're not going to do these things with the computers and make them sign it. It'll add a little weight to what you're trying to tell them.
So the Middle Georgia Library System has Chromebooks. You can go to the Washington Library. I'm on the board. I'm the board chair this year. But you can go to the Washington Library and you can check out a Chromebook to do homework on, apply for jobs or whatever for, I think, 2 hours. And the reason they bought Chromebooks is because it's not possible to download anything else. And I would guess that that's probably the future of laptops, is they're all going to have to be configured in that way so that people can't download malware, because it just doesn't even make sense to be sending everybody home with laptops that they can My client that was fixing laptops the last year and a half, that's all he did for JSTARS, is he would show up every day and fix laptops, and government employees would click on an email, click on a website, download malware, take it in, check out another one. I mean, that's all he did, because and these are government employees that know better, but they still would screw up.
Yeah, and the government always thinks by writing legislation it's going to make things better, but hackers don't care. So I just saw on the news the other day where the administration put some new harder penalties in place, and I haven't seen.
Good luck finding those people that even did it.
I haven't seen one arrest on any of this stuff.
Right.
So
anyways, get some good advice.
All right.
And help on that.
Let's move on to something that's right in our lane here. The title of this article is "You'll Never Retire If You Keep Doing This," and this is a great analogy. Sherri and I have seen this many, many times in different classes we've taken, and as well as conferences, you name it. But let's say I wanted to give you $100, and I present you with two options. You can take the money and go, spend it today, and never look back. Or option two, you can forfeit the $100, and I'll give you $1,000 in a month. Okay? What would you do? Well, you'd be surprised how many people would take the $100 and go. The scenario is modeled after a famous marshmallow test from a psychology study out of University of Stanford or Stanford University in the 70s. The kids ages 4 to 6 were given a marshmallow. The researchers said they could either eat the marshmallow then or wait 15 minutes and get 2 marshmallows. The ensuing video that they always show is just so fun to watch because the kids stare just intently if they decide to wait at that one marshmallow for 15 minutes. Anyway, so and then the instructor would leave the room, and it leaves the kid up to himself to decide what he's going to do. The hypothesis was that the longer a child could delay gratification of eating the treat, the more successful they would be later in life. So think of your retirement savings as that marshmallow. Only instead of getting 2 treats after 15 minutes, you'll get 200,000 treats after 50 years. Even as adults, we often forget the value of delayed gratification. It would be easy to pocket that my full paycheck every 2 weeks. I could spend the extra cash on a few more dinners out, have a couple of bottles of wine, and I could live paycheck to paycheck for a long time. And that's what it would ultimately end up being. Or I could automatically pull 10% of my paycheck out every 2 weeks, invest that money, and let it grow, eventually be able to retire. Living slightly below your means is a lifelong skill. Eventually, it just becomes habits. Because you'll never want to be stuck in the situation where you have no emergency savings, no cash on hand, or no nest eggs to fall back on. The stakes are higher with your money than with a marshmallow, of course, but the lesson is the same. Patience and discipline will repay you later in life, and the reward will surely be something you will savor.
This is huge.
It's a great article.
It's a great article. And this is something that you need to share with your children and your grandchildren and help them learn how to delay gratification. Everybody wants to go on a Disney cruise. Everybody wants to go to Disney and spend $10,000.
Everyone wants to live on Pinterest and look like a perfect stranger's house or
Randy,
car.
You were at a store yesterday.
I went to a pizza place, and the pizza wasn't ready. So I was sitting there, and I walked over to the bar, got something to drink, and I'm sitting there, and the person behind the bar was wearing shorts, and they were just shredded. I mean, they were just like
shredded, like denim,
shredded denim blue jean shorts. And I said, "Man, your shorts are about shot." And she started laughing. She goes, "I just bought these, and my dad says I paid way too much for them." And I'm like, "Well, if you paid anything, that's a lot." But I get it's not my age bracket, But it's amazing what
she
people
probably makes $10 an hour,
10 or 15.
So you give up 3 hours of your life.
That's right.
Minus taxes to buy a pair of shorts that look like they came out of Goodwill.
That's right. I mean,
you're exchanging your life energy for something that's not worth that.
And so,
that's
for
to
things
me
that
the
won't
big
be
deal.
worth anything in the day you walk out the store, the before the next trend hits.
Right.
It's going to be worthless. So,
but anyways, I think our time is about up.
How are we doing there, Bobby?
We're gone.
Is it? Okay. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thanks for hanging with us. Have a great weekend. Go to the fairgrounds and stay away from expensive shorts.
The views expressed on this show should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer